So with the exception of late-term abortion, which the platform, from my understanding, does very, very much call out explicitly, this new position we're hearing from the Republican Party on the issue is, leave it to the states, let them decide how to handle. I know you just said you're comfortable where the party is right now, but doesn't that position effectively mean that the party's okay with blue states deciding to give wide access to abortion?
No, I don't think that's what it means at all. I think that's
leave it to the states.
No, I think it's a recognition of the reality of the politics of the country.
Okay, here is another example of how the Republicans are not actually softening their message on abortion, despite what some pundits might like you to believe. Speaker Mike Johnson has made it very clear that when they say state rights, they really mean red state rights. But Johnson isn't the only one reassuring their anti-abortion supporters on this matter. RNC Chairman Michael Whatley assured some of the convention's most religious attendees on Thursday that the party is not abandoning its anti-abortion message. He said, "I'm here to tell you that as long as I am chair of the Republican National Committee, this party is going to be a pro-life, pro-family, pro-faith party." Interesting. Whatley also told attendees to the prayer breakfast that the committee put together a very strong pro-life platform. He said, "I am proud to be the most pro-life chair in the history of the Republican Party. I am proud to work for the president who has been the most pro-life president in the history of this country." And he had to reassure them because the RNC platform deliberately attempts to hide their actual abortion policies and beliefs as if they could convince voters that they'd suddenly change their decades-long stance on the issue, especially during a time when they're actually making progress towards their goals. Like, it doesn't make any sense why they would suddenly reverse course. USA Today had this to say: "The RNC's platform released last week did not call for a national abortion ban, to the chagrin of groups like Pro-Life Wisconsin, which protested outside of the RNC earlier this week. While Trump's campaign has sought to sidestep most mentions of abortion this week, hardline anti-abortion activists still think the GOP should push for a national abortion ban. Meanwhile, religious groups like the Southern Baptist Convention have called on Republicans to oppose in vitro fertilization, an explicit and unpopular position GOP leaders have balked at, even as fetal personhood legislation, which could create a pathway to giving full legal rights to embryos, has bubbled up in various states." While some attendees were okay with it being framed as a states' rights issue, some were predictably not happy about it. Linda Montgomery, a delegate from South Dakota, said she'd prefer that an abortion ban be the rule of the land. But she said Trump is telling the grassroots to organize people to restrict abortion in their own states. Because what happens if you don't do that and you say, no, it's going to be the whole United States, the states that are not invested, you get this division. I mean, the division is already here, isn't it? Charlie Buckle, 78, he's a delegate from Lafayette, Louisiana, and he said he would prefer a nationwide abortion ban, but I am really happy having it even at the state level right now, because once we do that, we start to change minds. And maybe one day we will have a national mindset to say we are solidly a pro-life nation. Okay, so once we start changing minds, they're not going to. They're just not. They haven't been able to change minds this whole time on this abortion issue. The whole reason why they're having to be so subversive with this platform in the first place is because they have continuously failed to get the majority of Americans on board with this. And they recognize that if and when Americans vote based on this one issue, which it's said that that might happen, the Republicans will lose. Adrienne, what do you think? Are they actually fooling anyone here?
I do not believe that they're fooling anyone. They are trying to toe the line and not upset the Republicans who believe in, pro-choice, and these religious groups who believe in pro-life. The thing I don't understand about these religious groups is if they want religious rhetoric, they need to go talk to their preacher and not their politician. Being out in these streets trying to claim that your government needs to reinforce your religious beliefs and principles it's completely and totally ignorant and unrealistic. pluralistic. And so the fact that they are upset that the RNC is not out here pushing their religious agenda, it doesn't really comport with logic as far as I'm concerned, because last time I checked, our nation was built on the thought of separation of church and state. And so I think we need to continue to reinforce those rules so that our nation doesn't implode. But then you have these religious groups and parties trying to change the system. It's very frustrating. And it also is completely problematic for the Republican Party, because again, they're trying to toe the line and please everybody, when the reality is that that can't be done under the rules we all agreed to play by.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very frustrating, as you said. I live in Texas, so I know exactly how frustrating it is, especially at this point in my life personally. I know I talk about it a lot, but it really is, it's unbelievable the things that I have to deal with now in my personal life because of something that my state government has done, something that my federal government has allowed to happen. And it's really disappointing is what it is, because as you said, we grew up in a country that was built on a foundation of separation of church and state. And now suddenly all these religious zealots are infiltrating my life in a way that I did not anticipate, at least not as I was growing up. It's become a very real thing in the past few years. And at least they understand, they acknowledge that it's not popular, right? At least they understand that they have to try to trick people, but that's what they do. And hopefully at this point, all we can hope for is that people just don't fall for the tricks.
When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?